Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook podcast, proudly brought to you by Pat and George from Mortgage Choice SCW. Tim Williams on deck there for NRL Supercoach Round 22. Also with me to talk through it, he's 2019 NRL Supercoach champion, Dez Creek. Dez, how are you, mate?
Good, Timmy, good. Coming off a $12.99 this week, which is, I felt like it was a pretty solid score, so up to 1,600 thought overall. It's where I've been all season, really can't get much momentum going, so I've only got 4 trades left now, so it's really getting down to the business end.
Desi, speaking to you off air, you've got, unsurprisingly, some pretty rogue trade ideas coming into this episode and more ideas of who you don't want to get back into your team, which excited me. So we'll get to that very shortly. Also with us, Quantum CEO, Bulldogs Director, Adam Driussi. Ads, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Very well, thank you.
Also on a bit of a charge.
Slight charge, yeah. I think I got 1264, so up to 8,000. So gradually coming back to something more respectable. Yeah. I've got you in my sights, man.
You've got your bear, mate.
You're the target.
You fell further behind last week because the mighty Kuma Stallions, we're back, baby. 1,298 points, up to 6,100 overall. Shout out James Tedesco, the Messiah. Absolutely rocking it at the moment. So a better week, not where we want to be, but going the right direction after that horrid 2 weeks ago, which was starting to get out of the back of my memory. On today's show, we'll look at the key takes from Team List Tuesday. Topic for the day, head-to-head finals draw. Super important. We touched on it last week, but we'll be looking at the clubs and the players with the hardest and softest draws across head-to-head finals, starting for the majority of leagues next week in round 23. Hot topics, Trell, Walsh, Teddy, which fullback do we go to for the run home? Seems to be the question each and every week, and one that we're not much closer to answering. We're going to drop a super pod play for the run home, a really low ownership player. If you're looking for a bit of a Hail Mary in overall or your head-to-head, whatever it might be, I've got an absolute ripper in store that you won't see coming. Our round 22 trade and skipper plans wrapping up with a few listener questions. Guys, the SC Playbook Unlimited Group leader, still raging poll, Bobby. Shout out to Bobby because I ran into one of his mates at Henson Park down in Newtown on the weekend and he was giving him big raps. So third overall and leading the charge for a $1,000 first prize in the SC Playbook Unlimited Group. Also, boys, it's taken a long time for me to get to it, but the SC Playbook crew, we went back-to-back, number 1 ranked, averaging league the last 2 seasons, but we're not going the trifecta, put it that way. We haven't batted up this year, Ads.
No, well, last time I checked, we were about 50th or something, weren't we?
Yeah. Into 40th this week. We had a good week, so it was a big swing. So if we can go up 10 leagues per week for the next 5 weeks, we'll get there, but
might be tough. Hey, look, we've gone back-to-back. I think if we could get top 20, it'd be pretty big achievement, but we'll see how we go. With
the form the Spies in, we're not making too many charges anytime soon. So, leading the way, though, in the leagues, I checked it out. So, SSX, they're a 10-man league, and they are the league, I should say, to hunt down, averaging 1,184 points. So, they're absolutely on fire. And as I said, at the moment, the ones to beat. Guys, the SC Playbook subscription package, NRL package down to $20 for the rest of the NRL season. So if you've ever considered subscribing to SC Playbook, you want to see what it's all about, or you just want to support the site in 2023, you can jump in and do that via the SC Playbook website. There's a subscription tab in the menu. I touch on it every week, but a stack of different things to offer there. So go and check that one out if you're interested. Boys, let's get stuck into Team List Tuesday for round 22. First up at the Brizzy Broncos, Brendan Piakura returning. I think he had the flu last week, it might have been, but very playable this week against the Sydney Roosters up at the Gabba in Brisbane, that one is. At the Bunnies, Latrell Mitchell named. He was a late scratching last week, which is a bit of a blow. The bigger blow this week, though, Desi, still no Tyrone Munro, who 200K. The biggest blow about Tyrone Munro, not only is he an opportunity to free up cash for super coaches, but in a game like the Tigers this week for the Bunnies and a really soft draw to come, very playable in 17s. I was going to play him this week if he was available over some Supercoach guns, essentially.
Yeah, that's Supercoach, isn't it? Everyone kind of bought into him. I think maybe like 20% of people bought him, kind of hoping that he'd keep playing because he looked very good, no doubt. So he definitely looked like a 17 sort of player for the run home, but that's just the ebbs and flows of it. You got to take it. If you bought him, you still made your money out of him.
Yeah.
He's just not going to make you money now, passively.
That's it. It's hardly a knock. And even like I sum up my season, I went a week early on him to free up cash for another trade. after destroying me 2 weeks in a row with big scores, and then he hasn't played since. So happy days. But as I said, it did free up that cash, and from what we've seen in his first few games in the NRL, like he's a best 17 player for him. He's a gun, that fella. So hopefully we see him back shortly at the Tigers. Luke Brooks and Charlie Staines back in for the Tigers at the Storm. Eliesa Katoa finally back from that facial sort of eye cut that he had earlier on in the season. It was a long time out, but he's back on deck. Matty Ryan has held him the entire time as a pod for the run home. So no one happier than him except for the fact that he's been named on the bench. At the Storm, though, boys, Nelson Asafa-Solomona is out. Remus Smith gone. Tarek Sims gone. Justin Olam gone. Adds the impact here, Asafa-Solomona in particular, I see, is on Harry Grant, who is quite reliant, I mean, like any hooker in the game, is reliant on the go-forward of your forward pack. And who does that for the Melbourne Storm? It's Nelson Asafa-Solomona. So I suppose the question here around Harry Grant is, do you think it'll affect him? And if you don't own him, coming off a poor score on the weekend, do you rush to buy or not?
Well, I don't own him, so it's a good question.
There you go.
For me. Yeah, I don't own him, and I think at the moment I'm not going to prioritise him because I've got 6 trades left, so I reckon I'm going to use 2 of them to bring someone in, like someone decent, and I might have to free up some cash. And of all my priorities, I don't think Harry's going to make it, so I reckon Harry I'm going to have to death ride. I was stoked last week when he got his 33 because he didn't damage me. And
not only did he not damage you, but he helps you. Like it was a
stinker. I had Blake Brayley instead, so he posted about the same. So I ended up breaking even there. But
did not want to run the ball, old B. Brayley, did he?
Oh man, the 2 blokes I was death riding, Harry Grant and Taruva, and I was out there at Penrith Park watching it rain tries, and I thought Taruva's going to kill me because I couldn't play him.
You can thank Tyrone Peachy for that.
He got 20 odd, so I was death riding well last week. So look, I don't have Harry. I don't think I'm going to move heaven and earth for him versus some other players like Latrell or someone like that. So, yeah, and I remember early this year going to the Bulldogs Storm game when Nelson was on the field. Their go forward was amazing, and once he went off, it was a huge blow for him. I thought. I reckon he's crucial to that pack in terms of.
I'm so intrigued to see the Storm this week because they are so reliant on the big fella. Like they're lacking middles as it is, and what he brings to them.
But Bellamy's obviously put a rocket under him because he's made a few changes. I know some of them are forced, but some of them aren't. So, I wouldn't want to be playing Melbourne this week. I think they'll come out firing. But
Desi, you also don't own Harry Grant. You've got 4 trades in the bank going into this round. How do you sit on him? Is he a bloke you're trying to get back in, or are you happy? You're running, what do you got, Cookie and Reece Robson there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty content with Cookie and Robson. There's no real point trading out one of them. They're the tier down from Harry Grant. He's obviously the best, but, we've listed all these outs, so he might be kind of just back to that level of Cook and Robson knocking out 60s. I think they're all just going to kind of knock out 60s on the way home, so it probably isn't going to be the position that you're going to look to trade and bring in players of difference.
I still think he's absolutely the top hooker for the run home and a bloke you want to be getting into your team. But as you said, when you're low on trades and if there are other guns you want to get back into the team, off the back of last week, off the back of especially the Asafa-Solomona news, he doesn't become necessarily the must-have that he once was. If you've got trades up your sleeve, get him in. But if you don't, I'm thinking probably sub 5, not necessarily needing to get him in. At the Parramatta Eels, Sean Lane is out. Andrew Davey takes his starting spot, sort of hoping Ryan Madison might take that, but he's still on the bench. Whether or not Maddo sees bigger minutes there, you would think so, but time will tell. Wonderful news. Izack Tago out. Why is that wonderful news? Because Tyrone Peachy starts again. He's the gift that keeps on giving the Peach.
He's in season.
He's in season, the Peach. Not only, the best thing about him has been that if there's been any tougher matchups or when he's played limited minutes, he played off the bench at one stage and played a handful of minutes, that's brought down his average. But in terms of actually playing him for the Cooma Stallions, he's averaging, I reckon, 70 plus for me. So the downside to last weekend was that I had, and this is why you need to be so flexible with trade plans, was that I had this plan to get in Payne Haas and Latrell Mitchell this week, but it was relying on, Latrell's price drop, and a few other things. When Peachy came in, he had a massive break even. So he dropped about 50k, 40 to 50k. Latrell didn't drop his 50k, so it could cost me Payne Haas this week. But we'll get to that shortly. Regardless, Tyrone Peachy does come in on the left edge this week. My one concern there, and for any Taruva owners out there as well, Penrith will be going at Ads the left edge of the Sharks, which is probably the worst defensive edge in the competition at the moment. It's an absolute shambles. So that bodes extremely well for Nathan Cleary, Brian Toto, Stephen Crichton.
Yeah, and they looked pretty good last week, that right side as well. So, yeah, look, I think I have to play Taruva this week. It's just as my team shows that, because I've got Chance and he's not playing, obviously. So I think I have to play Taruva. I was hoping I'll be playing Tyrone Munro, but he's not playing. So I'll be hoping they go left and the Peach either gets cut out or fumbles a ball to Taruva or something. Because Taruva last week, he barely touched the ball.
It was like
in attack.
Tungo's also got glue hands, but not on Peach's level. Like Tungo will occasionally get one away to Taruva. Like if Taruva was on the right edge, it's funny, isn't it? Like even Critter doesn't love passing at the best of times. He's got pretty glue hands as well. So, like imagine one of these blokes on the edge for the Bunnies. They'd have 15, 20 tries. Anyway, Wade Graham on the edge for the Sharks. I also don't love this Ronaldo Mulitalo. I just don't think that suits their entire... It could be fine for the side. Defensively, it looks like it should be a good move, but he's kind of I like a Teague Wilton there running those hard lines, Talakai running those hard lines, and the space opens up out wide when defenders bite. That doesn't tend to happen with Wade Graham. Where do you sit on Mulitalo, Desi? You brought him in a while ago.
Brought him in two rounds ago against the Tigers.
Right to the
matchup. Nice juicy matchup. And copped about 220s in a row, so I'm not happy with Ronnie at the moment, to say the least.
He looked on track for another 20 on the weekend before a couple late try or one late trial, was it?
Jeez Louise, yeah. I mean, it was crazy because when I bought him, I kind of looked at his scores for the whole season. 15 weeks in a row, he'd scored above 50. So I was like, he's pretty much he's the cornerstone of consistency this season. Ronnie, bring him in and he serves us that. So
the only good thing is you're not alone. I think a lot of us are in that boat. Like a lot of
many
us
people
want to
brought him
voodoo
in.
Ronnie Ronaldo, but I think we're all got to get behind him, don't we? I'm forced to start him.
Leading to last week, he was like 80% plus ownership or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, I haven't got the data yet for this week, but go Ronnie.
I will be sitting
somehow
him.
score
I sat him last week and he went all right. I'll be sitting him this week again, Ronnie. Save him for the better matchups. Seaford Talakai named on the bench. He was late scratching last week. Again, provided he does play off the bench, he'll be a sell this week unless he would have come in and maybe start on the edge. In place of Wade Graham, Ads at the Doggies. Holy heckers. Mate, who isn't backing that team? Sexton, Fox, Kickow, Preston, every man and their dog.
Burns, I think you just put et cetera.
Burns.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's funny. Obviously, last week was a tough day. Like, it was always going to be a tough day. I had fears of what the score could be against the Panthers, and I think you said it on your podcast on Monday. From 28-0 down, I thought the team fought really hard, and you could see the effort. It wasn't just Penrith clocking off. I thought the team played really well and just tried their guts out. So I actually feel like that last 50 minutes gives us some momentum for this week, and then to bring back that sort of cattle. Like, you're talking world-class players in Kickow and Fox in particular, and even Preston. Like, he's been probably our best player this year. So. Yeah, no, it's exciting. It's a big trip up to Bundy. I'm going up on Friday. I'm preparing for a big weekend.
You haven't missed much this season, have you?
No, I go to pretty much all their games. So, looking forward to it. Can't wait to see Kickow in particular.
Yeah, they would.
He's a big man.
I owned in that game Peachy, Toto, who both had, I think, first half doubles, and Nathan Cleary's skipper, who was going well enough. I just thought, here we go. The Stallions are back. And then what I didn't account for was the Dogs showing a bit of ticker. I thought they were tremendous that last sort of 45, 50 minutes of that game.
Tried very hard, man.
Yeah, and the big news at the Doggies, forget Kickow, Sexton, Fox, Preston. No Frank the Tank. Pele's not in. Why is that significant? Because I'm running a front row short this week and I've got a chance at a free VC loop and Pele was going to kill that. So I'm very happy to see Frank sitting out one more week. Valence Tafade at centre for the Dolphins. An interesting one, boys, at the Cowboys. Jeremiah Nanai is out for 4 to 6 weeks. Still no Helam Lukey, who might be another week or two away and may play sort of reduced minutes coming back. Fini Fuaki, hopefully I pronounced that okay, but starting on the edge for the Cowboys has just looked an absolute wrecking ball in his game time this season. Playing off the bench, he's 277k, only available at 2RF. If it was dual to our front row forward, that would be a game changer. But Desi, what do you reckon in terms of a downgrade option? Ads, I know you mentioned before you might be needing to free up some cash somewhere. Cowboys have a decent run. They are firing. That's a gold mine, that position of Jeremiah Nanai. What do you reckon?
Well, yeah, if he gets the minutes, he looks a goer, that's for sure. I mean, you can knock for, 70K cheaper. You save yourself 70K if you buy an off. Is it worth nothing? Or is it worth paying 70K more for this dude? He just looks like an absolute machine. He looks like a weapon. But yeah, do you really have space for him in your final 17? That's the question you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, you sort of look. He's got a 35 break even, so maybe you can. Oh, the Titans matchup looks good though. Like, it's a gamble. It's a gamble that sides may be tempted to do. I think teams looking to free up cash that are both low on trades and they're not entirely happy with their depth could look to get him in, because he probably becomes a playable option if it comes to it. If you've got depth and, if you've got depth in your side, you're probably not going to find a spot in 17 for him. So you probably just get the extra 77K. But if you need a player and cash, what do you reckon, Ads?
Oh, you just want to know how many minutes he plays.
Yeah.
Like, if he played 80 minutes, I know he can't keep up his PPM rate, but the guy is fabulous looking footballer. Like, if he knew he was going to play 80, he could end up being one of those guys that's just a wrecking ball and just an awesome player. So, yeah, the issue for me is that I don't really have a second rower that I want to downgrade. Like, I'm pretty happy with my second rowers.
Do you have Preston?
No, I sold Preston the other week for feeder, who subsequently got outscored by Preston. But then Preston had the flu last week, and I might have known that before the game, so I could see some other teams copying that one.
You're just watching on twiddling your fingers.
Well, I would have preferred him playing.
True.
Yeah, no. So I reckon if you can afford the 70K, I'd rather have him than enough myself. I think he could be anything.
I agree. I said I agree because when you said could be anything, I was thinking of the Guru. I agree. If the 77 is going to be pivotal to another trade for you, I'd prefer him than enough for sure. Boys, let's get stuck into a few head-to-head finals fixtures. So I've mentioned before, but it'll depend on your league settings as to when your head-to-head finals are. But I think for the majority of us out there, your league settings will be that your finals start next week, round 23, with the grand final in round 26. So Maxi Bryden, the great man himself, has provided essentially a strength of schedule for the finals from rounds 23 to 26, which we'll run through a little bit here. There will be an article coming be this week or next week at some stage to have a look at. But we'll run through them, and we'll start with the sides with the good draws from round 23 to 26. And boys, the standout there is the New Zealand Warriors, who are on the bye this week, and they return for finals against the Titans, the Tigers, the Seagulls, and the Dragons. 3 of those games are at home. Desi, Charles Nicholl-Cookstad, people still have Sean Johnson, especially after, we'll get to Nicho Hynes shortly, but Nicho Hynes, who was on 15 odd with about 60 to go and then just turned on the afterburns with a few late tries just to save his score. Hone in on Warriors players, I think. After this week, obviously, being on the bye?
I think so. I think a lot of people already have, Chance and SJ, Fanua Blake at the top of the rankings. So, I don't know. Maybe if you're trying to make up ground, it could be maybe a play to not bring them in. But with that draw, it's going to be very difficult to sort of pass up guys like SJ and Nicholl-Cookstad, who have those 150s in them.
And SJ's the third most traded out player this week. So it gives food to thought. Like I said, coming off of Nicho and the Sharkies having we'll get to the Sharks shortly. They've got a tough draw the next 2 weeks, being Penrith, out in Penrith, and then the Bunnies over in Perth. But, yeah, I know we've spoken about it last few weeks, but you'd be tempted to hold SJ, wouldn't you?
I think I'm assuming people trading out SJ, they're trying to bring in Cleary, but yeah. And you're saying run with SJ and Cleary.
It's what the Spy did
Hynes.
last week.
Yeah. So he did do it?
The Spy, I believe, he did.
Usually follow through on his big calls.
He did it because the poor bugger. I was messaging him during that game, and a bunch of things happened last week. He's not a whinger, the Spy. He's the most glass half full bloke I've ever met in my entire life. But far out, the poor bugger's had some things go against him this season, and there was a couple more that happened last weekend as well. And he goes, being the glass half full bloke that he is, he was saying, you know what, luck's got to turn. It has to happen eventually. Law of averages. And then when Nicho, who like a stack of people had captained last week, was about 30 or 40%, was on about, it was about 15-20 with about 20 to go. He goes, I don't want to jinx it, but it's happening. And then Nicho went, try assist, finished on like 80. I was saying, poor bugger.
He jinxed it for everyone.
It's madness. I think it's madness trading out Hines in the first place. Like
he does that. That's the thing. He's just he scores 80 even when they
he can just pull it out anytime against anyone, in my opinion as well. Like we know the Sharks aren't good against bottom 8 teams, but Hines can still score 100 against the top teams, just like that. Yeah.
And we're talking here we're specifically about head-to-head finals. So we're kind of going away from the overall picture at the moment. Head-to-head picture, the Sharkies finals draw is it's all right. They go the Bunnies, then they go the Titans, Cowboys, which will be a very tough one, then the Knights, who knows what the Knights will be throwing up in round 26. If they keep up what they're doing, tough. If they're not and they revert to what they had been doing. So not a bad finals draw, but anyway. The Dolphins also a great draw adds. Newcastle, Sydney Roosters, West Tigers, North Queensland Cowboys, which is grand final week. It brings into guys like contention Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, Jermaine Asako is probably the main one there if you're looking for a pod for the run home. But what do you reckon?
Well, I have to keep death riding Asako. Like I've been off him since round 2 when everyone wanted to get on, and it hurt me for a period. But he's coming back to the field a bit, isn't he? Like he's not.
He's almost at the price that I want to buy him now.
He's cheap.
Under 600k.
Yeah,
he's only cheap for a reason. And the Dogs, we'll keep him quiet this week. Clearly,
you kept Taruva to 22. So
we did, and we kept Cleary pretty quiet, really, in the scheme of things. So, I mean, look, if you had Asako this week, you'd be pretty happy. But I don't know. I just don't know if I'd be confident bringing a Dolphins player for the upside. Like they've had a great season. Do I really think they're a side that I want upside on? Probably not.
I'm with you, mate.
Whereas SJ for the Warriors, like the Warriors are on fire. I can understand that play more.
Or you look at like a Campbell Graham for the Bunnies with Fairdraw and Alex Johnston. I'm with you, mate. The other thing to note there, Valence Tafade back at centre, also a noted ball runner, probably doesn't help him. So,
have you seen him pass this year? I don't know. Does he pass? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he's passed.
Nor should he. Just run. Just knock him over. And then the last one to touch on, but to go into the Newcastle Knights. And this makes me crook to my stomach as a non-Marju and KP owner. But Dolphins, Bulldogs, Bunnies, and then Sharkies. They've got 3 of those games at home, and the Dolphins are in Perth. Desi, that's a good draw for KP. Ooh.
It is. I made a crazy play 2 weeks ago. I sold Marzu for Ponga. I don't know. I was a bit drunk on a Thursday or Friday night. I was like, I need Ponga. Who's gonna make way? I was looking through my team. I was like, I can't sell Val. I can't sell a few of my other centre wings. It has to be Marzu to make way. And I didn't look at this draw, which is insane.
It's worked out okay.
Having Dolphins and Bulldogs back to back is like. Yeah, you probably want Marzu. You probably want him for those matchups. I'm
so tempted to get him in. But anyway, we'll see.
You wouldn't want to not own Ponga, would you, Desi?
No.
Imagine not owning Ponga.
Couldn't do it.
This joke got old last week, ads.
Couldn't do it.
Oh, God. It's going to be... The funny thing about it is, like, the player that I know you could get him at 5'8", obviously, but I kind of like had Munster... who got like 98 last weekend, and Cody Walker, who I'm more than happy to have for the run home. The player that I kind of had over KP was James Tedesco, who's got a 6-round average of about 110.
Yeah, no, he did
so
well.
you do need to sort of compare a few of these things, but yeah.
I'm only stirring him, man.
Tough to do. I'm just trying to sugarcoat how terrified I am. Sydney Roosters, really nice draw. The Melbourne Storm have a good round 25-26 against the Dragons and Titans. They do have Penrith in round 23, though, away. So that's a tough one for first week of finals. So check that one out. The Bunnies, Sharkies in week 1. Then they go the Dragons and the Knights into the bye in grand final week. So a decent draw there, but grand final, that's where it becomes troublesome with them. Boys, on to the sides with the bad draws. And the Gold Coast Titans go the Warriors, Sharks, Panthers, Melbourne. That's the hardest draw according to Maxi Bryden. Do note, if you do have your finals, grand final round 27, they have the Doggies, so much better there. And they'd brush that key with their Warriors game. But a tough draw for the Titans. I think the one there, fellas, is Dave Fafita. We saw on the weekend that he played 61 minutes because the Roosters were pumping them, and he didn't need. They said, mate, we no need playing you for the rest of this when the game was beyond doubt. The Cowboys this week, another tough game for them. Games there where, look, we don't know what the Titans are going to throw out week in, week out, but it could happen again. Desi, you don't have Fafita back in yet. Is there an antipod opportunity there? What do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I've been tossing it up. It's been like really eating away at me, but I just don't think you can do it. I think he's just way too dangerous this season. You need to get Fafita. I can't believe I haven't even brought him back the last 2 rounds, frankly.
Got away with it though.
Yeah,
I have got away with it, and I'm tempted to not bring him back in this week as well. But yeah, he's so bloody dangerous. He's got the arms free. Inside the attacking 20, it's pretty much like almost a guaranteed try or try assist when he gets the ball now. So,
but he's even getting those like running that kick out at Penrith sweeping line where he's getting tries. He's just sweeping and tipping on. What do you think, Ads?
Well, I brought him in, and since I brought him in, he hasn't done anything. So I've been his curse. I actually think if I was in your shoes, Des, I would death ride him with that draw.
Yeah,
I just think
so
that
too.
the draw is that like the Cowboys' defense is solid.
His stats though. He's
solid.
turned up on like all these top 8 teams. That's the thing.
Well,
he's turned up on half these teams.
But now I'm on his back. You're okay.
Busted him.
Yeah.
Look,
it would be a brave call though, because the guy has been the best second rower by a long way.
Yeah,
it's almost the best season we've ever seen from a second rower.
He's been amazing.
Look, he's a buy, but if you are trying to make up ground, there's an option there. And I always get questions about what's an antipod. Look, an antipod, it's a pretty ridiculous term, to be honest. I think Desi might have coined it a few years ago. I don't know what he's doing.
Don't blame me for this.
I don't know what he's doing that day. I think we used to think he was a genius. Then you look more into it. I'm like, I don't think antipod's actually a thing. It's just like you're just a pod because you're just going against the grain of what other people are doing. So anyway, I think that makes AJ Brimson a sell. The St George Dragons have a brutal draw. Steer clear of them, not as if you'd be going towards them anyway. Shout out to Zach Lomax, who has back-to-back tons, but with that draw and the Dragons, you couldn't be doing it. The Manly Seagulls, head-to-head specific. This is, of course, Sydney Roosters, Penrith Panthers, New Zealand Warriors, then Bulldogs in the grand final week, round 26, if you get that far. But Adsy, that's a tough draw for Manly, and Ruben Garrick is the one that sort of springs to mind there. There's still plenty of value about him. Overall, his draw is a lot better because he does have, the Bulldogs in round 26, but like Tigers round 27, and the Dragons this week. So the draw's okay, but head-to-head finals, tough.
Yeah, but last week when we looked at this, he was like 90% plus owned. So I don't think it's going to cost you if you play him and he gets 50 and everyone else gets, like, you're probably offset. And I reckon it'd be a huge move to waste one of your trades, even if you're a head-to-head player, on getting Garrick out. Like, there's some other trade you're going to want to make rather than that. So I couldn't advocate trading Garrick out because maybe you think he won't score so well against Penrith, but when every other team's probably got him against you.
Definite overall hold, head-to-head specific players for finals, worth a look. But I'm with you.
You'd want to have two trades a week up your sleeve for every week.
You want to be able to do it.
But you might have if you're dead.
It's certainly a luxury trade, and averaging mid-60s since he's moved to fullback, so pretty good. The Brisbane Broncos, they have also a difficult draw. Round 23 onwards. 23. Cowboys, Eels, bye in round 25. That's brutal. Prelim final time if you own a couple of Broncos, and then the Canberra Raiders. Even overall, boys, then it's the Melbourne Storm in round 26. The Storm, who are likely to be playing for either top 4 or top 8. Really difficult draw. Reece Walsh is the one that I think this hurts. Now, Walsh, like, he was blistering on the weekend. He has been all season. 111, I think it was, against the Bunnies. Very affordable. It's about 660k. Desi, pod for the run home, or does that draw scare you off too much?
Well, he's certainly a pod. Yeah, it is a scary draw, though. But the Broncos have been playing well. You know, they've been playing well all season. I think he's just going to continually score well. Whether he's in the top 2 fullbacks for the run home, top 2 spots is, you know, it's anyone's guess. So,
but he almost looks matchup proof, I reckon. Like, even in Origin, he looked amazing. And a couple of games when he didn't score so well, I had him during that period. He could have scored anything in those games. Like, I think he got a 20-odd one night, and he was so close to getting 100.
It was weird, wasn't it? Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like he was quiet and he said, oh, what's he doing? It was just so unlucky. So, I reckon it could be a good pod, but
is he going to outscore like a Drinkwater, Gotho?
Well,
they're a lot more expensive.
Drinkwater's about $500k more.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going Walsh over Drinky every day of the week in terms of because of the cash value.
Yeah. I mean, even Latrell's what 150k more.
Yeah.
It's so hard to know what condition he's going to come back in.
I know,
but they do play the Tigers, so
we'll get to him shortly. He has this season averaged 67 against current top 8 sides. One of those was the Cowboys in round 2 when they were terrible, and he scored 105. So if you withdraw that, might be unfair, but 61 points per game. So he hasn't set the world alight against gun teams, but as you said, he's also grown an arm and a leg every game he's played this season. So we might not be looking at the same Reece Walsh there. Boys, moving. The lucky last, Parramatta Eels. Dragons in round 23 into the Broncos, Roosters, and then Panthers away grand final week. Do note if your grand final is round 27, they have the bye, so steer clear of them. And regardless, it's a very difficult draw. So for head-to-head finals, probably not keen to be on around the Eels. Guys, as you know, Paddy and George from Mortgage Choice SCW can help you with a number of things from wedding finance to debt consolidation, but one of their biggest services is education, especially when it comes to first home buyers looking to get into the market. The boys have let me know that with the new financial year coming into play, that the government has released a heap of new incentives to make it so much easier for first home buyers to actually buy their first place. If you want to know more about these and how much you can borrow in general, go and speak to them. Usually it'd sting you $129, but if you mention SC Playbook, it's a free consult. Speaking of education, the boys' new podcast, That'll Teach Ya, is now officially up and running. The first episode I should say, on top tax tips is a cracker. Definitely one that I've learned a bit from. Had to listen to it the other day. Got a stack from it. So go and give them a listen. Look them up on Apple and Spotify at That'll Teach Ya. Guys, to get in contact, flick them a message on Instagram at patandgeorge_SCW or call them on 02 9521 1611. All that info plus their emails and more are in our articles at scplaybook.com.au. Boys, most traded in players. Hot topics, I should say. Starting with most traded in players. Nathan Cleary, we saw him come back against the Doggies last week, 80 points. Realistically, disappointing on what we were probably expecting. I skipped him there. Desi, has anything changed you in 1 week that suggests he's not a must-have?
I can't see why. I mean, I kind of expected this from him on return. He'd just get through the game. He looked solid, cranked out 80 points. We know that's what Cleary does.
He didn't run the ball a lot.
No, he didn't, but...
Understandable.
Yeah, exactly right. So, I mean, go without him at your own, at your own peril. Realistically,
Ads, if you're running an SJ Nicho combination, could you stick with it potentially?
Oh yeah, you'd be nervous watching every Panthers game. I just think the Panthers are going to keep winning, and even though they only put 44 on the Bulldogs, we've seen them put 40 odd on the Roosters. We've seen them they've destroyed good teams all year. He's going to get attacking stats. I just think you got to have him.
They've got 4 of their last 6 games at home. There's some tough opposition there, but when you're playing Penrith at home, it doesn't really matter. As you said, the 2 games they've got away, I believe, are the Titans and the Seagulls. So it's like he gets the tougher games in Penrith. I'd be getting him in. Latrell Mitchell, second most traded in. There's got to be some concern that after being out for 10-plus weeks, a big game against the Broncos, Desi, that he got ruled out. How do you feel about bringing Latrell Mitchell this week? Yes or no?
I can't do it. He's probably second or third of my want to trade in list this week. But yeah, you want to see how he goes on return. He even like when I did have him, I had him earlier in the season. He was only taking 8, 9 runs a game, so I can't see it really being much more than that. But it is the Tigers, so he might not even need to run to score 150 points. So that's the toss-up, but not for me.
The Bunnies have a dream draw on the run home, including that round 26 bye to note. What do you think?
Well, I can't imagine they would play him this week unless they felt like he was good to go. That's the first thing. Like, why would you do it? Why would you sit him out last week and then bring him back against the Tigers? No disrespect to the Tigers, but so you got to assume if he's playing that he's good to go. You're not going to risk a Ferrari in this game. And I just think back to when Ponga the other week, and again, I'm not just trying to rub it in, but when the West Tigers match up and you thought, geez, Ponga could do anything to them. This week, that is Latrell.
Yeah.
So that's the scary thing for me. On one hand, I want to do what your son Desi, which is he's been out a long time, maybe it'll take a little while. On the other hand, he's a goal-kicking, attacking fullback against the Tigers this week. He's probably a VC or C.
Will he have the kicking? That's another question you got to ask.
Yeah.
In a near full-strength Bunnies team, I think they're missing Totola. That might be it in the side.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for the Bunnies on the run home, Latrell included, is that they're sitting 9th now. Like, it's not like they're cruising in 2nd or 3rd and can sort of coast to wins and that. Their for and against is only okay. Their draw on the run home is so good that I've actually still got them to sneak into the 4.
Yeah.
I think they can win every game on the run home, but they're going to have to win them well. So I don't think it'll be a case of shutting up shop if they get out to an early lead. I think they need to put scores on. I think I'm going to pull the trigger. We'll get to trade shortly, but like I'm sitting in 6K overall. I'm kind of like, you know what, this could be my ticket to a 180 as a VC with a free shot at it. Why not?
Yeah, and I've got Gutho, and I reckon when you look, and he's been amazing. I mean, he's averaged, 110 plus in the last 5 weeks. But when I look at his draw, I think maybe now's the time to turn Gutho into Latrell, free up cash, and ride the Latrell wave with you. So
I like it.
Yeah.
You did mention Desi there. The goal kicking will be key to it. So, I mean, like if he's out, he's replacing Blake Taff, who has been kicking goals. So he nearly has to kick goals. Like, Matty, Lockie Ilias? Lockie Ilias if Trell didn't kick?
I think Damien Cork will kick.
Really?
Yeah.
Desi's eyes just lit up. Cookie.
If Trell doesn't kick.
Do you reckon he will?
Yeah. Oh, calf. Ooh.
He'll be fine.
You'd think so.
You'd
yeah.
think so?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the fact that they don't have a noted goal kicker there, it's got to help. Reece Walsh, we spoke about him. Number 9, James Tedesco, the other pod fullback. And look, more than happy for him to remain that way. He has where are these numbers that I did this afternoon? He has a 6-game average of, I'll find it shortly, 93 points. And that was including, he had one stinker against the Rays of 20 or 30 points. What do you reckon, Ads? On the radar, or would you... What are your thoughts?
Probably have to have a look at his draw, I guess. But I've always been a Teddy owner. Like over the years, he's almost been my top priority every year.
Yeah.
That I've thought if you don't have Teddy, you can't win Supercoach. This year has changed that rule at the start of the season. He actually was a liability for us having him. But if he's in form, looks at his draw: Broncos, Manly, Dolphins, Para, West South. It's got some good games and bad games in there. I think he's a valid option. I'd probably go Teddy over Walsh with those draws.
Yeah.
Especially because Walsh has got a bye and Teddy doesn't. So, I think he's a very viable option. If you can't afford Latrell or you want to go a different option to Latrell, well, then Teddy's the go.
So, obviously taking, prices into consideration, we've spoken about now Latrell Mitchell, Reece Walsh, James Tedesco. Is Latrell your priority there? Is he
at the moment? How much is Teddy? What's he costing?
Teddy's 700k.
So it's an extra 113k. I'll have to have a look and see exactly what trades I want to make. But yeah, I think I'd start with Latrell.
Desi, how would you order those? You're in this exact position, aren't you?
Yeah, last year I remember we had this exact same conversation on the way home, and it was like whether Tedesco or Latrell was going to outscore the other for the last, I think it was 6-7 weeks.
Yeah,
we had a bet going on, in fact.
That decision cost me top 100.
Yeah, I brought in Latrell, so I might have to bring in Teddy this time. I reckon he's looking good.
Just to be different.
Yeah. No, he is looking good though, Teddy. I mean, I brought him in for 4 or 5 rounds when he got in a couple of tons midway through the season. So, I've picked his timing pretty well, Teddy, this season. So maybe the next month is the month to bring him back in.
Yeah, that decision cost me about 600 points and about 3 months worth of sleep. So still a bit of PTSD lingering around as well. Holy Jesus. Boys, number 5, Cameron Murray. The notes here, I've just got jotted down, told you so. He's the man.
I loved Murray as a trade last week. It just couldn't fit with what I wanted to do. But
76 points in 76 minutes, 58 in base. His only attacking start was a line break assist.
So cheap.
He's still so cheap.
480k last week. You should have been wearing a balaclava bringing him in that one. But what is he? 530 now. He's. Yeah. Ideally, I'd find a way to bring in Murray and still get Latrell. But it could be that if I can bring in Murray and. I mean, he's a downgrade. He's someone downgrading to Latrell. It's going to work out.
I went Hopgood to him last week for 240k, and he outscored him by about 15.
Wow.
So I'm things can turn very quickly, but very happy with that one. Like Desi, it'd be hard to knock the buy, isn't it? Like even I spoke with Guru about it on Wednesday, and Guru was critical because of the draw they had, and sort of saying, does he get early showers if they get some leads? The way he's ball playing and the amount of touches he's getting, I think he has attacking stats before he goes off if he gets an early shower.
Yeah, you'd say so.
Even if there's a 40 in there for that reason, I think there'll be a 90 or 100 to sort of balance it out.
Yeah. I'd say you're going to get, looking at that draw, you'll get at least 1 ton on the way home from Murray, maybe 2.
I was thinking any time we're talking about early showers, it probably means that they're well up, which means he might have scored a try.
Exactly.
Like it's not a.
He will score tries.
Got plenty of Supercoach points. And that's when you'd want him. So
he's not like a Payne.
I'm not worried
he's
about
not like a Payne Haas or someone where you worry about early showers because he's not a noted try scorer or try assister. Cameron Murray does.
Yeah.
And when they're busting him open through the middle, his footwork at the line off Cookie, he gets attacking stats.
He'd have to be the best value guy at the moment sitting in Supercoach. And so 530k for him.
Great buy, but
it's just a case of how your team's set up, whether you can get him in and do what you want to do.
By all means, though, stay away from him. Boys, it's Nuff season. Nuff, for anyone out there, basically players you can bring in who have dual position. You can swing around. They free up a stack of cash for you. Now, all these are different in their own ways, but Dan Russell starting on the edge for the Dragons. 200k. He's dual 2RF CT dub, 8th most traded in. Miles Martin at the Newcastle Knights, dual front row forward, 2RF. I love seeing all these come into the most traded this week. Jesse Colquhoun, he's suspended this week, so be a little cautious there, but dual 2RF front row forward, 15th most traded in. I think we spoke about him last week, ads, and just looks like an AE nightmare, limited minutes off a bench. And Jack Howarth, who somehow we haven't seen in the top grade yet. Dual 2RF CT dub, I believe he's bottom dollar as well. It is what it is, boys. If you want enough and whatever suits your team, they're all viable options, aren't they? Des?
Yeah, I brought in Howarth last week. Happy with this stint so far in the team.
Yeah, I've got Howarth and Martin. You know what?
You got them both.
I've got them both. Yeah, I've got 2 nuffs, which is I'm not enough, but I need the cash. I don't have the depth of you, man. I'm running with more like a Bulldog squad, just running on fumes. But if Martin or Howarth got a run in round 25, 26, wouldn't that piss off a lot of Supercoaches?
You're getting needled up to make your trades each week.
I am. We had a few boys
I know. Look, as I said, every side's different. If you need a player, you go with Dan Russell or potentially Colquhoun. If you don't need plays and you just want the cash purely and you don't want to come near it, Miles Martin, Jack Howarth. I think the Miles Martin's probably a good one for that front row forward 2RF. Yeah. Very, very valuable. He's probably the pick of them, so depending how your side's set up. Most traded out, boys. Tohu Harris, 589k on the buy for the Warriors. Few disappointing weeks in a row, Desi. People obviously needing a front rower this week, looking to go, I assume, to Payne Haas. Has Tohu done his job, or do you just hold him for the season, save a trade?
I find it strange that he's #1 traded out player. Like he hasn't been that bad, right?
I believe he was crook going into a game a week or two ago and had limited minutes there, and then the other game he limped off with an injury but came back for a couple of minutes. So I think they may have managed him a little bit.
Yeah, he has been carrying injuries around. He has been for years. He's just like, that's what you expect when you buy Tohu Harris, that he's going to be limping around with bandage knees, straps everywhere. It's like, you just know you're getting that when you buy Tohu Harris. So, but 600k, I guess you can trade him in. His upside's kind of capped at 90-ish when he gets a 1 try assist. He's never going to ton up on you. So,
I will say, Ads, that the position I'm in and many out there will be, particularly people who own Tino Fasua Malawi, Adam Fanua, Blake, Tohu Harris, will be lighter front row. If you only light one, it does give you a free crack at a VC loop. Again, every team's different. If you've got a plotter sitting there who could score 15 for you, I'm in a position where I've got 3 or 4 players there not playing for me this week. They're all noted guns, so I'm confident they can get reasonable scores as an AA. Gives me a free crack if I decide to go a front rower short at like Cody Walker or Latrell Mitchell, which I quite like. The issue is that Payne Haas is the one we're moving to. So Payne Haas plays in game 1. So if you do go Latrell or Cody as the VC, who's the obvious one, you can't move to Haas after it. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming people are selling Harris because otherwise they're short at front row. I mean, I guess it just depends on your side. I mean, you're not running with a Moalia or a Sonny Luke. It's a bunch of teams are.
My biggest concern this week is Ronaldo Mulitalo. Yeah.
It's funny how suddenly we're all gun shy and Ronnie's going to pull in at the 9, isn't it?
I've got high hopes. High hopes for a Ronnie hat trick.
I think in your situation,
those Sharks won't score 3 tries. They'd like Ronnie.
In your situation, I'd save the trade and then have a crack at the loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cop Ronnie. Cop Ronnie 7. Spoke about Nicho Hines. Spoke about Sean Johnson. 10 over Sua Malawi. 4th most traded out. The same situation as Tohu. I don't know. Like if you held him through last week, he's only got 2 more weeks to go. Comes back as a pod. I'd be tempted to hold him now. Jacob Preston, 7th most traded out. He's done a job. Time to go. And we've spoken a little bit about Clint Gutherson. Guys,
Preston doesn't have to go. Why does Preston have to go? He's back. Yeah, only had the flu last week. You don't have to burn a trade getting out Preston. Seriously, you don't have to. No, you don't. You don't have to burn a trade getting out Preston.
You don't, but like if you can turn him into like Payne Haas or Dave Fafita, he's averaging 61.
Yeah,
mate, he's done a wonderful job for me all season, but he doesn't have to go. But he's also probably not a bloke you'd rush into playing. He's 17 this time of year. Don't like it.
Oh no, I don't mind. I'm just more. I'm thinking if trades are like something you want to save, I think Preston's very startable.
If you're sitting there with 2 or 3, you're right. If you're sitting there with 2 or 3 trades,
I wouldn't be saying
he's not a priority.
Trade out Preston.
Fair play.
Sorry to pick you up. I was going to stick up.
Boys, super pod for the run home. Give me a sub 5% option. Have you done your homework or not? Have we got anyone?
I've got someone.
Fire.
I've got someone from the Roosters. He generally goes well if Tedesco's going well.
Daniel Tupou.
Can he do it? Can he get it done? He's been a Supercoach gun in the past. Roosters have a pretty good month of footy coming up. He's fairly cheap. Scored 120, I believe, 2 weeks ago with a double. Hasn't scored a double other than that all season. Just hasn't been scoring tries.
548k is very cheap. Hasn't scored a lot. So those scored that double, scored one in round 16 and didn't have a try. He did miss a chunk of games, but before his double last week, he had 1 try in 7 games or something.
Are they coming? You have to expect them to come eventually.
I don't know if
he's sitting equal on the record too. Do you see last week's game when they celebrated and started cheering him for the record and then it got taken away? So had to put him back down. Had to put him back down and defend. So they want him to score.
Yeah. Fair. I am just so unconvinced that the Roosters have turned a corner. I think the one thing about it, Desi, is that games against Manly, Dolphins, Eels to a less degree, but then the Tigers, you don't necessarily have to play him against, say, the Bunnies and the Broncos, do you, if you get him in?
No, definitely not. You would sit him. I mean, I think, sit versus start's very, you have to get it right this time of year. So it's the toughest time of year for it. So, you definitely sit your centre wings against top 4 teams. Yeah,
and that's it. I said time and time again, but he could average 40 for the run home, but he could average 80 for your team if you play him in the right games. You have to play him in tough games. Ads, Jay, did you come up with anyone?
Mate, to be honest, I've been busy in meetings at work, so I haven't.
How dare you have
didn't even see the team.
How dare you have a career outside of the SC Playbook podcast on Tuesday night? Sickening. Mate, Sammy Velamai for me. 572k. He's averaging 72 points on that right wing, bit of a gold mine for the Cowboys. They've got some soft games on the run home. Titans this week. They do have a bye. They've got the Sharkies at one point, the Dolphins. Panthers round 27, if there's potential restings there at the Panthers. Basing 31 per game, attacking upside. It's bold, but the Cowboys are humming, and Scott Drinkwater is just putting it on a platter for him. What do you reckon?
It's bold.
It's bold.
I've never even... I mean, with the opposite, I've been in meetings today. You've obviously had the entire day to find that, because that's very bold. But, he's got 2 tons. And you're right, the Cowboys look amazing.
Yeah, I'm not doing it, but if you were after one, I think he's a ripper.
Surely you go for Taulagi instead, right?
No, not necessarily. I love Jinky's gunbow, so I love Jinky's left to right passing. I haven't crunched the numbers, but I feel like that right edge when Drinky's firing is the place to be, not left edge. Especially that they'll often play short to Val Holmes and just hit him with a crash ball. I like right edge. Okay. Boys, trades, we do have to wrap this up shortly. Places to be, things to do. But firstly, the SC Playbook podcast has partnered with Better this season, producing markets of our own. Last week, Nathan Cleary, Brian Toto multi, fell a bit short of that. Blame Nathan Cleary because Bizza got over for a try. This week, Cody Walker, 60-plus official fantasy points into an Alex Johnston hat-trick. We're going hard on the Bunnies this round with the back, Latrell back. Don't have odds for it yet. I'll send it out across social media tomorrow or on Thursday. Link to that market will be in our YouTube description and across our socials. What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Desi, round 22 trade and skipper plans. What have you got?
To be honest, I've only got 4 trades left, so I'm kind of looking to hold them this week. But trading out Gutherson to maybe Latrell, or I was thinking Cody Walker. It seems like a week where you really need to own Cody. He could pull out a 200. We know he's capable of it. So if you kind of miss Cody's score, he will crank out a big score in these last 4 or 5 rounds. So. Yeah, I think it's going to be Gutherson to Cody Walker.
I love it. I would be terrified. I've had Cody for a long time. I'd be terrified not to own Cody for the run home. I think he's a great play. Ads, what are you looking at?
At the moment, I would say Gutho to probably Latrell, and then Max King to Murray.
Maxi boy.
Yeah,
he went well on the weekend, didn't he?
He did actually. Yeah, he did. Yeah, but we've got a few troops come back, so hopefully he doesn't have to play those minutes every week. It's more Max was there as a duel for me for a little bit, so it would cost me a duel. I would lose my kind of ability to move front rowers and second rowers, but at the same time, I feel like I've got through that bye period.
You've got 3 front rowers.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep. So I think I'm okay, and I feel like then Murray's a much more startable player.
Yeah.
But
rate it. And your skippers?
I haven't even looked.
Getting to it. Desi?
I'll probably chuck the VC on Cody and captain on Nathan, I'd say.
I have 2 options that I'm tinkering with. One is, even though he's back playing, just to go Peachy straight to Latrell. I said it does concern me, Peachy on the left edge. I think the right edge got all the ball this week, but he's very, very playable this week, Peachy. The other option I've got is Preston to Latrell and Tohu Harris to Payne Haas. It cost me that free VC loop, though, that we spoke about, boys. So I need to work out if it's worth doing that. It also cost me that extra... Like, if I can get away with the VC loophole and, Cody or Latrell can go 80 to 100 and I do loop, it also... Like, I save a trade in the process. So I'm probably tempted to lean to just making one trade and getting Latrell in via... I think I can switch Peachy up to the back row so I can get rid of, say, Preston straight to him if I wanted to hold Peachy for this week. Skippers, my C will be Nathan Cleary because I think going at that Sharks left edge is a gold mine. I don't think it is. Who would you VC out of Cody and Latrell? Because I do fear that Latrell might be an early rest candidate in this one if there's any concern around that calf. What do you reckon, Ads?
I would VC Latrell. He's goal kicking. He's just like he's just can go monster.
Keeping in mind,
so can Cody.
I do have the free loop though, so it doesn't.
But I still think Latrell would be less owned than Cody as well. You're asking me who I think. I would say
less owned.
I would VC Latrell because I think the guy can go monster. That's what he's the player that would scare me the most. Not owning him this week with the matchups.
Desi,
I'm going Cody. I have the option to bring in Latrell, but I'm actually more scared of Cody. For some reason, I don't know.
He's a gun.
He is a gun. He is a gun. He's been in form all season, but so is Latrell. Latrell was in form this season as well. So, but he just hasn't played for so long. That's the only issue I have. So, I think VC Cody.
They could both go monster in the same game.
They could, absolutely.
They've done that plenty of times. One's goal king. I don't think you really. It'd be a nice VC to have either of them, I reckon.
You have not helped me one bit, lads, but thank you. I'll confirm that on the SC Playbook Q&A podcast on Thursday, boys. A couple of very quick questions before we get out of here. We'll go to a question from Mike Roki, who just Ken and Will ask a good question. Thinking of going Hines to DCE is a mega pod move. In form, playing his 300th versus the Dragons, will then trade him to SJ. He says has a few trades to play. If you've got a few trades to play with, what do you reckon, Desi? DCE, your boy.
No, I wouldn't do it. Trading out Hines is just madness, full stop in Supercoach. Like, you're just throwing your season down the drain if you trade out Hines. I'm saying that now, like blanket for the next 10 years, you'll need Nicho Hines in your Supercoach team every single week, borderline. Yeah,
I'm with you, mate. I think I wouldn't be pulling it. Even with trades, I think there are better ways to utilise it. Even if he does go nuts this weekend, it'd have to be a big score, wouldn't it? Boys, question from Anthony Licciardello. Would you sell Hopgood even with Lane and RCG both out? It goes on a little bit, but I did it last week, boys. He did have the higher break even. He dropped, I think, maybe 40 or 50k ads at the price, and I think probably that the move would be he wants to go to Latrell. So whether you're downgrading to Cam Murray to free up cash or going to the Latrell, what do you think? Hopgood? It's luxury. You have to have a few in the bank, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've had Hopgood all year, so he's been great to me. But I think if you're saying Hopgood to Murray and that meant you could upgrade to Latrell, fair enough. I can understand that. I can't knock that one. But equally, I'm going to hold Hopgood all year, and I'm very happy with that too. He's just been so reliable.
Yeah,
it's been brilliant.
Last question from Nicara. I assume that's only Britton Nicara writing into the show. Big fan, probably. Stacked backs, but have room for one more. Latrell, Munster or Walsh. We've kind of touched on it, but we didn't throw Munster in the fold. Desi, pick one of Trell, Munster or Walsh to bring in this week.
I'm going Trell.
Ads?
Yep, Trell.
I'm going Trell too. Righto, guys, we'll wrap that up for the SC Playbook podcast for NRL Supercoach Round 22. Good luck this weekend.